Bitcoin Cash today is basically Bitcoin from 2009 until 2015 or something like that. It's fast, cheap, reliable, irreversible transactions. But because the way the civil war within Bitcoin played out, it didn't wind up keeping the Bitcoin name. The main difference is that instead of limiting it to 3 to 7 transactions per second, Bitcoin Cash can do hundreds or thousands of transactions per second. It can scale to be money for the entire world, just like was outlined by Satoshi Nakamoto himself and all the people that got involved in Bitcoin early on. It would have been stunning to us in the early days. And if you had told me in 2013 or 2011 or any time back then that Bitcoin wasn't going to be allowed to scale to be money for the world because people would be tricked into thinking that limiting the block size would be a smart thing to do to drive adoption, I'd say you must be smoking crack you bought from the Silk Road. That's such a stupid idea. Yet people were tricked into believing that. And so many people are tricked into believing that today, that limiting the block size on Bitcoin somehow was a good thing for Bitcoin. That was the biggest disaster for Bitcoin. It led to a civil war. It led to multiple chain splits. It led to reverse adoption, where you used to have companies like Microsoft and Steam and all these companies were Expedia. They were accepting Bitcoin. They stopped when the blocks became full. And I was ahead of the curve, telling everybody about Bitcoin. I was ahead of the curve, sounding the alarm bells for not letting the blocks become full on Bitcoin as well. But thanks to censorship and personal attacks and all sorts of crazy stuff, the other side managed to win that argument. But there's some actor that put out on Twitter recently. I forget. I can see his face. Some comedian guy. Turns out he's one of the very few famous actors, also a free market libertarian guy. But he pointed out, he goes, "Look at that. All throughout history, the good guys won every single time. What are the odds of that happening?" And because the winners always write the history. And if you look back on history, everybody feels like the good guys won every single time. But the same is true with the civil war within Bitcoin. The winners wrote the history. The good guys didn't win that battle. It was the guys using censorship and personal attacks and DDoS attacks and just all sorts of crazy, nasty, dirty tactics. And they wound up effectively stealing the Bitcoin name and stealing the entire network effect and adoption movement that Bitcoin had for a project that's not Bitcoin today. The thing that's called Bitcoin today is not the Bitcoin that made people excited in the early days. And that'll infuriate a lot of people that I would even say such a thing. But there's hardly anybody better in the entire world to make such a statement, since I was right there from the very beginning and I watched the entire thing happen. And again, I have a book coming out that's outlining the entire thing. So I'll start to, you're the first. I haven't been doing interviews at all recently, but this is the first time I've even mentioned that I believe that's coming out. So look forward to that sometime around the end of the year, and it'll document everything. And people read all the dirty stuff that happened and went on, again, their jaw will drop. And again, to put on my conspiracy theory hat, I think absolutely there were covert government agents that were involved, intentionally trying to disrupt the adoption of Bitcoin around the world. Because what bigger threat could there be to the dollar and other government currencies around the world than peer-to-peer electronic cash that anybody can use without permission? So of course they want to delay that from being adopted worldwide.